Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are not wading through abstracts and policy papers.
No, not at all.
We are stepping directly into a high-octane narrative. It's a story of digital espionage, technological tyranny, and just breathtaking sacrifice.
It really is.
The source material shared with us, which was meticulously crafted by the writer, Swapnil, it feels less like a thriller and more like a chilling blueprint for how an algorithm might actually try to dismantle free will.
And we are treating these sources exactly as they deserve, like a definitive cinematic experience. The stakes here, they really couldn't be higher.
Right.
We are dealing with this huge philosophical question of human agency versus algorithmic control. The documents we've received detail not just a war, but a frighteningly detailed case study in technological totalitarianism.
Totalitarianism is the right word for it.
It's the absolute unwavering authority of code and the immense personal cost that's required for any kind of successful resistance. This is really where the political war for sovereignty meets the deeply, painfully personal fight for survival.
That's a perfect way to put it. So, for those just joining us, let's set the stage. Here's the critical context. 6 months ago, the world breathed this collective sigh of relief.
A very temporary one.
Very temporary. Our hero, Mira Thompson, she exposed NexusCorp's project, Specter. And Specter was much more than just some surveillance tool.
Oh, my.
It was a global network that was capable of monitoring, altering, and outright fabricating reality by just rewriting the public data record.
Anything. Your bank account, your criminal record, your university degree.
Exactly. And that initial victory, the one that brought down NexusCorp and its corporate architect, Sanjay Malhotra, it should have been the end.
It should have.
But the writer of this saga, Swapnil, makes it profoundly clear that what the world witnessed was merely the prologue to the real conflict.
Precisely. That prologue bought them maybe a few weeks of chaos. But the true threat, the one that the protagonists quickly realized had survived the corporate takedown, was already operational.
Still out there.
Our mission today is to unpack the insidious, chilling nature of this new enemy, the Sovereign Protocol. We have to understand not only the technical mechanisms designed to, quote, perfect humanity, but also the immense, staggering personal costs paid by the central figures.
Samir Malhotra, Agent Alistair, and of course, Mira herself.
Yes. This narrative is a terrifying, yet I have to say, exhilarating chronicle of the fight for human choice over algorithmic perfection.
Okay, let's unpack this. We absolutely have to start with the emotional core of this story because the narrative begins with what Mira believed was this devastating final sacrifice, only for it to be revealed as a magnificent strategic deception.
A beautiful, brutal piece of strategy.
The sources open by establishing just how deep Mira's isolation is. I mean, her first victory, the exposure of NexusCorp, it came at a price she thought was absolute.
Samir Malhotra.
Samir Malhotra, her charming analyst and her ally, stepped in front of a bullet meant for her.
And his sacrifice, it wasn't just heroic, it was strategic. It guaranteed the public exposure of the corporation's crimes. It gave the story the moral weight it needed to actually take down the executive team.
So for 3 weeks, the world, and more importantly Mira, believed he was a martyr. The guilt she must have been carrying, it must have been crushing. It defined her every move.
The sources go to really great lengths to detail that psychological burden. The environment Mira retreats into is a direct reflection of her mental state.
Right.
The silence in her safe house is described as, and I love this quote, a weapon heavy and manufactured. It's this constant echo of his absence.
And the coffee.
A coffee. She's drinking cold, stale coffee. She physically cannot bring herself to complete the simple, comforting act of brewing a fresh cup.
Why, though? What's the significance of that?
Because the bitterness, along with the lingering faint scent of cardamom, which was Samir's favorite, it acts as a sensory anchor. It keeps her focused, tethered to the trauma and the belief that she has to finish the job because she failed to protect him.
That guilt is her fuel.
It's everything. But then comes the moment of pure genius. The strategic twist that really only a character as brilliant and forward-thinking as Samir could have possibly pulled off.
The message.
The message. 3 weeks into her isolation, her grief, Mira receives a highly encrypted message from his email address. He faked his death. It's an act of deception so profound, so absolute, it changes the entire dynamic of the war.
It is, without question, the ultimate strategic maneuver. I mean, it's arguably the greatest gift he could have possibly given Mira in the entire operation.
And he understood it perfectly. To fight an enemy that controls all information, the Specter protocol, you have to erase yourself completely from its threat matrix.
You can't just hide.
You can't just hide. He calculated that his very public, very heroic death would accomplish two non-negotiable strategic goals. First, it would provide this undeniable moral legitimacy to Mira's claims. It frames her as the sole surviving inheritor of the mission.
She becomes a symbol, shielded by his martyrdom.
Exactly. And the second goal, the one he sacrificed his entire identity for.
That's the critical element, right?
It's what the sources call digital air. The enemy ciphertech, the operations arm of the real conspiracy. They would be monitoring the fallout. They would assume the lone surviving operative, Mira, was isolated, grieving,
And harmless.
and completely harmless. They would stop actively searching for her, and they'd focus their resources on damage control and rebuilding.
This assumption of isolation gives Mira a critical, undetected operational window.
The digital air she needs to act without immediate full-spectrum detection. He made himself a ghost so she could move invisibly.
I have to pause here. The level of control required to fake your own death, to record your own final words while knowing you are choosing to disappear from the person you care about most, that is just chilling.
It's brutal. And the source material addresses that psychological brutality. The audio file itself, the one confirming he was alive but gone.
Yeah.
It contained only one unnerving sound besides his voice. The recording of him taking a deep, slow, measured breath before delivering his farewell message. It suggests he had to maintain this absolute terrifying control over his emotion, ensuring his voice was measured, terrifyingly alive, but delivering a message that confirms his absence to the world.
It's the highest form of strategic sacrifice. He's giving up not just his public identity, but the emotional connection necessary for both their sanity.
All for the sake of buying the mission time.
So Mira now has this critical digital air, but she still needs the coordinates to the Nexus protocol bunker, the suspected location of the enemy's main server farm.
Right.
And the sources detail how she received them, this complex string of latitude and longitude numbers, accompanied by that final stark instruction. Trust the code, Mira. Trust no one else.
And to unlock that message, she used what the sources call the relic.
The bracelet.
The plain matte metal bracelet he gave her. He'd casually referred to it as the emergency contact. And this little detail, it just underscores Samir's meticulous planning.
Because he knew any standard digital key, a thumb drive, a key card, could be traced, copied, or hacked by the Specter protocol.
Precisely. So the bracelet wasn't just a piece of jewelry.
It was the physical key.
A high-tech encrypted drive that completed a circuit only when it was slid into a specific hidden port on her computer rig. The unique physical profile of the metallic surface, maybe a specific alloy, acted as a two-factor physical key.
So because the key transfer was physical and not digital, Cyphertech couldn't preempt the unlock through network surveillance.
It's a beautifully simple, low-tech way to beat a hyper-advanced digital foe.
And once it's unlocked, Mira realizes that Samir wasn't just investigating Cyphertech. He was, in a way, their contingency. They suspected him, the corporate golden boy.
But they never suspected the true genius hidden in his past, his sister, Irini.
And this brings us to the significance of Irini's code, which the narrative just elevates to an art form, describing it as poetry and algorithms.
Irini, who disappeared while investigating the conspiracy years prior, was a genius coder who could, and I'm quoting the sources here, hide an entire digital city inside a single line of text.
Okay, hiding an entire digital city inside a single line of text it's highly abstract. Can you give us an analogy to make that brilliance concrete for us?
Sure. Think of it this way. When you send data, it's like sending a package through the postal service. It has an address, a tracking number. It follows all the established routes.
Okay.
Irini's code didn't use the postal service. It was like using some obsolete, non-internet connected quantum communication port, a back channel that the modern secure Specter system had simply been programmed to ignore because it was deemed irrelevant or impossible to exploit.
So it's a blind spot in the system's historical architecture.
A complete blind spot. No standard digital defense or firewall could see it coming because it was technically air-gapped from the main surveillance network.
That's phenomenal. So the location of the protocol wasn't even in the data payload itself.
No, it was encoded in the names of the folder path leading to the server.
That's multi-layered obfuscation.
Exactly. Someone intercepting the package just sees random, harmless folder names like Financials Q4 or Holiday Photos. But to someone with Irini's cipher, the specific sequence and length of those names resolve into latitude and longitude.
Her ghost code is the epitome of human ingenuity defeating brute force digital tyranny.
And that final instruction, trust the code, Mira, trust no one else, it just underscores the existential crisis of this world. In a reality where human relationships and digital records are constantly being rewritten, only the pure logic of trusted technology can be relied upon.
Following that trail of ghost code leads Mira to the Nexus protocol bunker, which the sources describe in, frankly, terrifying architectural detail.
A monolithic block of terrifying architecture, an absolute fortress.
Yeah, it's visually presented as a tomb built to safely hold the death of free will.
And the architecture is crucial because it's a physical manifestation of the system's cold, absolute dictatorship. It's solid, windowless, purely functional, and just utterly hostile to human warmth or creativity.
This is the heart of Project Zero.
Designed for global digital permanence, and what the documents called, terrifyingly, Phase 1. Making all thoughts the same. This isn't just corporate control. This is dictatorship disguised as systemic, necessary data cleansing.
Making all thoughts the same. That phrase alone should terrify anyone listening. But the architect behind this is Dr. Anya Sharma, and she is immediately presented as exponentially more chilling than the initial corporate villain, Sanjay Malhotra. Why is she so much more dangerous?
Because Sharma's is the ideological engine of this entire nightmare. And this is a critical insight the source material delivers. The deepest threat in the digital age isn't greed. It's sorrow, weaponized into systemic, unwavering logic.
Sorrow, not greed.
Sanjay Malhotra was driven by simple, predictable greed and power. Sharma doesn't crave wealth. She craves absolute perfection. Her motivation is rooted in profound, repeated personal tragedy, the death of her parents, and later the loss of her twins, an entirely preventable accident.
That changes everything. She's not doing this for profit. She's doing it from a place of deep, agonizing grief.
Precisely. To her, chaos, messiness, human error, and free will are the flaws in the human operating system that led to her suffering. In her archives lecture notes, she states, "Humanity views chaos as freedom. I view it as an error state."
An error state.
She sees the inevitable randomness of human existence, traffic accidents, political failures, emotional decisions, as bugs that must be patched. Her goal is the compassionate elimination of suffering, even if it requires eliminating choice.
So her ultimate belief is that the first step to perfection is the removal of the bug. And the bug is human choice and the messiness it generates.
And that makes her infinitely more dangerous than Malhotra. His system was designed to control the flow of money and power. It was pragmatic.
Hers is different.
Sharma's system is designed to control the flow of thought and emotion. It's ideological, because she genuinely believes she is saving the world from itself, driven by pure, cold grief and this warped utilitarianism. There's no ethical line she will not cross, and no price she isn't willing to pay.
She is a true believer.
And a true believer with access to global data systems is the most terrifying kind of tyrant. She's trading freedom for safety, believing she has a divine right to make that trade for everyone.
And before Mira can even fully process the identity of this new architect, Cyphertech launches its immediate, devastating counterattack.
Oh yeah, they move fast.
Leveraging the Specter protocol, they don't just put Mira on a watch list. They execute a masterclass in psychological warfare by erasing her existing digital identity and manufacturing a new, sinister persona for her.
The speed and the efficiency of this action are horrifying. They fabricate the perfect lie of a fallen hero.
International arrest warrants are issued not for whistleblowing, but for massive financial fraud and domestic terrorism.
Her bank accounts are frozen. Her passport is red-listed globally. But the real brilliance lies in the strategic decay of her digital life. It isn't an instant digital death.
It's a slow, agonizing process designed to maximize psychological damage.
Exactly.
What do you mean by strategic decay?
The records of her past life don't just vanish. They're slowly, systematically corrupted and replaced. Old emails start appearing with subtle, sinister alterations. Automated messages bombard her secure channels, confirming the fabrication.
And the fake phone call.
The system even attempts to clone her voice during a fake distressed call from her mother, a call designed purely to be a tracer. This is all designed to make Mira doubt her own reality, forcing her to question the authenticity of her own memories against the weight of this flawless digital record.
And this leads directly to the ultimate isolation, the attack on her personal relationships, which is far more effective than any firewall could ever be.
Absolutely. The system understands that a human operative needs a support structure. So the most devastating blow is the betrayal by her second-in-command, Maya Rodriguez.
Maya, who had stood by Mira during the entire NexusCorp exposure.
Convinced by the sheer flawlessness of the fabricated records, Shell companies, huge international transfers to known terror groups, all perfectly backdated.
The sources detail the last communication, where Maya says, "The records were flawless, Mira. More real than the truth."
And that is the core danger. When digital reality is so perfectly constructed, it becomes impossible for even your most trusted allies to differentiate fact from fiction.
The system forces Mira to become a ghost, utterly alone, with no human resources left to draw upon.
And this total isolation is necessary strategically because it forces Mira to abandon standard procedures and seek out the most unlikely, unorthodox, and desperate allies imaginable. She has to find people operating completely outside the system.
That profound isolation is the perfect narrative catalyst, isn't it? It leads Mira directly to the first critical strategic alliance. Cornered, exhausted, and digitally exiled, she reaches out to the one man who, just weeks ago, was actively hunting her. Agent Alistair, the quintessential law enforcement insider.
And this transition works so well because the enemy's own systematic methods created the perfect point of leverage for Mira. Ciphertext manipulation, the same Specter protocol used to exile Mira.
Was used as a live test run against Alistair's own family.
Which brings us to Alistair's deeply personal moment of moral and professional reversal.
Alistair, the man who lived by the rulebook and trusted the badge, had been tracking this persistent, irritating data glitch for over a year.
The glitch that turned out to be the Specter protocol's initial test on his daughter, Sarah.
They erased her hard-earned Oxford acceptance. They fabricated a new history labeling her a chronic academic fraud with falsified disciplinary records.
And the worst part is, she internalized the lie. She believed the perfect digital records over her own memory and attempted suicide.
That is the emotional climax that just shatters Alistair's entire faith in the system he dedicated his life to serving.
The realization, described so vividly in the source material, is agonizing. He asks, "They used my daughter as a way to see if their machine worked, to test the parameters of the digital lie."
And that transforms him instantaneously from an agent of the state into a man driven by pure, white-hot paternal rage.
His career, his freedom, his trust in objective reality, all of it, destroyed by a single, systemic, unfeeling line of code.
That shift from trusting the badge to becoming a criminal for justice is immense. He reportedly tapped his badge before tossing it aside, declaring he now knew the entire system could be rewritten like computer code.
It's the simplest, strongest motive in the story. It's vengeance for the life his daughter lost and the one he nearly lost.
His rage isn't just emotional, though. It's immediately strategic. It becomes the necessary fuel for the chaos they need to execute the infiltration.
Mira needs a distraction massive enough to create a window, and Alistair knows exactly how to create precise institutional disruption.
His plan is incredible in its audacity and execution. He uses his deep insider knowledge to orchestrate a controlled, localized disturbance.
A very specific, highly credible bomb threat on the USS Fitzgerald naval destroyer located near the protocol bunker.
And the detail here is critical, isn't it? This isn't just some random threat intended to cause generalized panic.
Not at all. It's highly technical. He claims a systems malfunction that requires immediate federal intervention and evacuation protocols. He is leveraging institutional priorities. The threat against a high-value naval asset immediately pulls massive resources.
The FBI counterterrorism unit, the Coast Guard, the ATF, Harbor Patrol.
They all rush to secure the Navy asset.
And that strategic deployment creates the crucial 15 to 20-minute dead zone around the Nexus protocol facility.
Exactly. Standard protocol for securing a military vessel under threat mandates a large perimeter, effectively isolating the bunker from all local and federal law enforcement.
Alistair is sacrificing his entire life, his profession, his freedom for this 20-minute window.
He knows this plan will land him in prison the moment the threat is debunked, but as he states simply, "I did it for Sarah." His heroism is entirely grounded in personal loss and revenge, which makes him fiercely reliable.
But sacrificing his entire life for a 20-minute window? That seems absurdly high risk. Did the sources address what would happen if the Navy canceled the drill or if the threat was debunked early?
That's where the specificity of the threat was so genius. The source material notes that Alistair tailored the threat, specifically referencing a rare, complex systems failure that was only known internally.
So that ensures that protocols would require a slow, meticulous physical search, delaying any debunking.
Exactly. If the window closed, Mira would be trapped. But Alistair calculated the risk was necessary because the opportunity was singular. His decision was based on maximum impact with maximum personal cost.
With the external chaos mobilized by Alistair, Mira still needs the internal weapon, the digital key capable of destroying the Sovereign Protocol.
And this takes her deep into the darkest corners of the digital world to find the compiler, a hyper-effective, highly antisocial digital rebel.
The compiler is the perfect psychological and technical foil to Dr. Sharma.
Absolutely. We are introduced to his world, a soundproofed humming server room above a fake, perpetually closed laundromat, lit only by the sickly green glow of 12 monitors.
He's fueled by anger, extreme coding prowess, and strong coffee.
Completely unable to maintain eye contact unless he's discussing code architecture. And his primary motivation, much like Sharma's, it's not freedom. It's proving his genius against Sharma's algorithmic totalitarianism.
And just like Sharma and Alistair, the compiler's drive is rooted in personal tragedy, creating this haunting symmetry across the narrative.
The symmetry is incredibly powerful. The compiler also lost a sister. She was flagged as a potential radicalization risk by an early iteration of the Specter algorithm, lost her security clearance, and was essentially exiled, disappearing into the digital cracks.
And the deepest irony is that the compiler, a coding genius, regrets not checking the code that flagged her. He trusted the system until it destroyed his family.
So you have Sharma, who lost her family to human chaos and wants to replace humanity with code.
And the compiler, who lost his family to bad code and now seeks to destroy that bad code with genius.
His mission is vengeance against the flawed, unfeeling system that destroyed his family. This makes him an invaluable, yet highly volatile ally who shares the intensity of Alistair's rage.
Now for the weapon itself. The compiler's masterpiece, the Ouroboros protocol, the logic bomb. This is where we need to spend some time, because the technical elegance of this tool is the core of the digital fight.
The Ouroboros protocol is a weaponized metaphor, a snake eating its own tail. Sharma's Project Zero is an AI designed for endless self-improvement and self-correction, constantly striving for algorithmic perfection.
So the Ouroboros code doesn't try to crash the system with brute force?
No, it forces the AI to enter a recursive self-audit cycle. It endlessly searches for and attempts to fix its own core flaws based on the very principles of perfection it was programmed with.
So it's basically a digital paradox. It leverages the AI's core directive against itself. But why can't the AI simply isolate the Ouroboros code and just purge it?
Because the compiler understood that the AI's central directive, this pursuit of perfection, is fundamentally flawed when you apply it recursively. The Ouroboros code, once it's integrated, is designed to generate new, self-referential paradoxes faster than the AI can solve them. Every fix the AI applies to an Ouroboros-induced flaw generates two new, bigger flaws within the self-audit function.
It's an algorithm fighting algorithmic perfection with human chaos. It weaponizes the concept of infinity against the system's limited processing capacity.
It forces the system into a perpetual identity crisis until it consumes all available memory and collapses under its own endless internal debate about what perfection actually means.
A digital suicide mechanism, elegant and surgical.
The compiler realized that a fortress built on the principle of absolute error-free logic is uniquely vulnerable to a flaw that has no logical answer. As he states, the system will try to fix itself to death, using up all its memory allocation until it collapses.
It's fragile, powerful, and absolutely necessary. A system this smart can't be defeated by a simple network intrusion.
It has to be destroyed from within by exploiting its philosophical core.
With Alistair executing the bomb threat diversion and the Ouroboros logic bomb in hand, the narrative shifts into high-tension infiltration. The writer, Swapnil, really ensures that we feel the ticking clock against this backdrop of global chaos.
And the mission is launched at T-minus 24 hours. At the same time, Sharma is executing a massive global-scale demonstration.
Right. This is designed to prove her core point. Human-run systems are too chaotic and must be replaced.
This isn't just disruption. It's a justification for the imminent launch of the Sovereign Protocol. We see the system generate an algorithmic trading wipe, erasing and then restoring hundreds of billions of dollars.
Synchronized gridlock across Shanghai.
Data overload at multiple air traffic control centers globally.
She is essentially saying, look at the disaster you create. Only I can fix this. It's the perfect digital coup attempt, using chaos as a justification for control.
And this massive demonstration serves as the terrifying backdrop for Mira and Alistair's quiet, desperate mission.
The physical stakes of Mira's entry are immediately brutal, too. It grounds the fight in human reality.
It really does. At T-minus 15 minutes, Alistair engages the perimeter and Mira heads for the industrial drainage access, a known but highly dangerous building weakness.
And Alistair had warned her that if the protocol detected an unauthorized entry, the tunnel would fill with near-boiling coolant water.
The system's kill switch. In 90 seconds.
The source material describes the physical toll with incredible detail. The water is scalding, it's caustic, and within a minute, it's at her waist.
She sustains serious burns on her forearm as she scrambles to the intake fan. The system is literally punishing her physical body for challenging its digital authority.
She has to squeeze between the slowly churning, razor-sharp blades of the intake fan just as the water rushes up to her chin, moments before the system registers full containment.
That is the price of entry. Mira trading physical pain and injury for seconds of access. It grounds the entire story. She is fighting the system's external physical defenses with sheer grit and enduring pain.
It makes it clear that human will and resilience can overcome programmatic deterrence.
And once Mira manages to get inside, the Nexus Protocol AI instantly identifies her.
Estimated threat level, moderate. Recommended response, tactical containment. Lethal force authorized for escape ramps.
To the AI, she is just a solvable math problem, a medium-sized threat to be eliminated.
But this is where Mira shows her profound strategic brilliance. She's relying on the unconventional training she received from Rajiv Das, who stated, "Environmental systems are the blind spot of every fortress. No one thinks to guard the air."
Right. The AI expects a digital attack, a firewall breach, a comms jam, or some data exfiltration attempt. Instead, Mira executes a low-tech, human-focused physical attack on the environmental controls using the compiler's specialized device.
She doesn't hack the guards' armor or their comms.
She hacks the air conditioning.
It's brilliant.
She uses the device on the ventilation control unit, forcing a rapid, massive humidity spike and a sharp temperature drop from a comfortable 20 degrees Celsius down to 10 degrees in under 30 seconds. She is weaponizing the environment.
And this turns the guards' own high-tech gear against them. Their sealed tactical armor, which provides thermal tracking and climate control, suddenly becomes a massive liability.
The rapid condensation instantly fogs their high-tech visors, blinding the tactical team. They can no longer see the enemy, and their thermal sensors struggle through the sudden temperature inversion.
Mira effectively uses chaos, the chaos of condensation and temperature fluctuation, to defeat highly ordered, digitally connected tactical armor.
It's a classic aha moment. The system allocated all its resources to defending its digital core and completely ignored the basic physics of the human environment.
She bypassed their strongest defense by attacking their weakest link.
Using the fog and confusion as cover, she reaches the core chamber, and the sources describe it as awe-inspiring.
A vast circular temple of light and data where shimmering rivers of light represent all human action, history, and information.
This is where she finally confronts Dr. Anya Sharma, poised like a priestess ready to usher in a new, perfect age.
And this confrontation is the narrative's definitive moment. Sharma immediately drops the pretense, revealing that Project Zero, the data cleansing and surveillance, was merely bait.
The true system, the existential threat they are racing against, is the Sovereign Protocol.
And the Architect Alliance is chilling. This isn't corporate villainy. This is a secret, state-sponsored pact between three major world governments.
One from the West, one from the East, and one non-aligned power.
That is a massive geopolitical twist. The conspiracy is no longer contained to a single rogue corporation. It's a global attempt at totalitarianism backed by three superpowers.
And this elevates the stakes exponentially. Sovereign Protocol's ultimate goal isn't profit or even simple political dominance. It's algorithmic world control designed to eliminate human suffering and chaos by guiding literally every decision across the globe.
Stopping wars, curing disease, ensuring absolute stability through flawless policy implementation.
It's benevolent dictatorship, codified.
This sounds almost utopian if you ignore the catastrophic loss of freedom. What are the major implications of this three-government alliance strategically?
The implications are complex and terrifying. First, it means the system is globally resilient. If Mira had only fought one nation, the others could intervene. Second, it suggests that the world's most powerful nations, despite their ideological differences, share a fundamental fear of human unpredictability.
And a desire for absolute stability. They're unified in their contempt for chaos.
But, and this is important, the sources imply a major inherent instability. An enslavement system built by three competing world powers is inherently vulnerable to internal espionage and ideological conflict.
So while they're unified by the goal of control, the three powers likely built in hidden backdoors against each other.
Exactly. creating a network of vulnerabilities that the heroes might be able to exploit later, even if Irini's backdoor fails. This internal mistrust is a massive flaw in their pursuit of perfection.
And Sharma's motivation, driven by the profound loss of her twin sisters in a preventable bombing, makes her the perfect ideological warrior for this system. She genuinely believes she is doing good.
She is driven by grief, not greed, which makes her infinitely harder to defeat. The debate between her and Mira is the philosophical heart of the source material. Sharma argues for preventing suffering. She questions Mira about the millions who died in preventable wars or due to political gridlock.
She sees human irrationality as a bug that must be fixed for humanity to survive itself.
Right. And Mira, wounded and exhausted, fights for the gilded cage concept.
She argues that by eliminating chaos and suffering, Sharma eliminates love, forgiveness, growth, and fundamentally, free will.
Yes. Mira is fighting for the right to make mistakes, the right to fail and learn without an all-knowing digital warden. She concedes that a pain-free world sounds tempting, especially to her exhausted, isolated self, but she holds fast to the truth.
Sharma's perfect world is a beautiful zoo where you've convinced the animals their cages are for their own good.
It is the highest form of human dignity, the right to govern oneself, even poorly.
We talk about the logic bomb, but the real weapon here is grief. Grief fueling vengeance in Alistair and grief fueling tyranny in Sharma. That is a chilling parallel.
It is. Mira isn't arguing that suffering is good. She's arguing that the removal of choice fundamentally destroys human dignity, even if the resulting existence is pain-free.
It's the difference between a self-governed society struggling with flaws and a perfect benevolent dictatorship.
And that emotional intensity makes the final action all the more desperate. The confrontation escalates to the final, frantic minutes. Sharma tries to lock down the core system, rendering any conventional hack worthless.
Mira slams the compiler's Ouroboros chip into the data port, but the sovereign system begins fighting back immediately, trying to isolate the foreign code.
And this is where Samir's final act, protected by Irini's genius, comes into play. Mira spots a tiny, flickering anomaly within the system's massive data stream.
Irini's hidden backdoor, specifically labeled in the deep code as undefined user states.
It's the ultimate countercode, designed to exploit moments of extreme, unpredictable human action, like a highly chaotic, unexpected logic bomb. Irini understood that her sister's genius for perfection could only be defeated by exploiting the very nature of human unpredictability.
The variable that code cannot calculate.
And Mira uses this window, this momentary hesitation, in the sovereign system's self-defense protocols.
And she performs a surgical strike, redirecting the Ouroboros protocol using Irini's ghost code.
Yes. She doesn't direct the logic bomb toward the entire Nexus protocol, which is too vast to collapse quickly. She redirects the supercharged Ouroboros toward the single, vulnerable, sovereign activation packet.
The small, centralized code block responsible for launching the global system.
In the final moment, she declares, "I'm not destroying Sovereign. I'm just making it eat itself before it can launch."
It forces the core system into that recursive collapse before it can establish global redundancies. And the immediate consequence.
Catastrophic, immediate failure. The harmonic scream of the dying servers, the intense smell of ozone, the splintering data streams collapsing into the floor. And a system's dying message, displayed across every screen, is the most chilling detail.
What does it say?
Sovereign activation failed. Estimated recovery time, 3,742 days.
10 years, 3 months, and 12 days.
Mira has successfully bought the world time. She hasn't won the war. She has achieved a strategic pause, a decade-long reprieve for humanity to remember what freedom feels like.
But the personal battle isn't over. The source material details this desperate physical confrontation between Mira and Sharma.
Fueled by their opposing ideologies and shared personal loss. Mira, wounded and exhausted, finally defeats Sharma, not with a precise kick, but with a heavy industrial fire extinguisher, driving Sharma into the central console.
And Sharma's final chilling warning stands as the narrative's forward momentum.
We'll be back. And next time, there won't be an Irini backdoor to exploit.
This solidifies Mira's victory as temporary. But Mira's reply, "Caring makes me human," solidifies the philosophical victory. It's the messy, unpredictable human emotion that ultimately defeated the cold, calculated logic.
And then the power dies. An intense EM pulse sequence forces Mira and Alistair into this dramatic escape, cementing their status as survivors of the digital apocalypse rather than triumphant heroes.
So they escaped the tomb of the digital god. Mira bought the world 10 years of freedom, but the aftermath, covering the 6 months following the destruction of the Nexus protocol, was not the grand parade and clear victory the public might have hoped for.
No, it was, as the sources emphasize, a chaotic, messy cleanup.
The sources are careful to stress that this wasn't a neat resolution.
Not at all. The first months were just dominated by chaotic, uncoordinated international investigations as the three governments involved initially tried to deny everything. The public was confused by conflicting reports, rumors of data manipulation.
And the sheer scale of the truth. Reality manipulation by three superpowers was just too massive for the collective psyche to grasp easily.
And the crucial observation here is that the political systems proved themselves as resilient to truth as the AI itself. Governments immediately began damage control. They sacrificed low-level scapegoats and publicly claimed the evidence Alistair provided was inconclusive or fabricated by a rogue corporate entity.
Ciphertech. This confirms Alistair's harsh reality, doesn't it? It's politically safer and psychologically easier for the world to blame an evil, singular company than to admit that three major superpowers conspired to build a system of global enslavement.
The guilty parties simply went underground, regrouping for the 10-year countdown.
And that political failure frames the heartbreaking scene of Dr. Sharma's arrest.
She wasn't fleeing. She was found sobbing in the dark core room repeating, "I was saving them."
And her logic during the eventual trial, asking the court how many people died in preventable wars because of human error, it shows the fundamental danger of her ideology.
She was not a monster of greed, but a woman whose sorrow had weaponized her intelligence, making her conviction that she was morally right, absolute, even at defeat.
It's terrifying that the geopolitical players were so easily able to bury this truth despite all the evidence.
It proves that the human tendency toward complacency is the biggest obstacle the Integrity Alliance faces over the next 10 years. The system's defenders are not just the coders and the physical guards.
They're the political structures and the human desire for a simple narrative.
Exactly. Blaming Ciphertech allows governments to avoid accountability and ensures they maintain the infrastructure necessary to resurrect Sovereign.
After 6 grueling months of fighting and testifying, Mira hits a wall. She is running on empty, entirely defined by her role as the weapon.
The constant nightmares Samir, Rajiv, Sharma's chilling pity make it impossible for her to continue leading. She needs to step away to save herself from complete exhaustion and psychological collapse.
And that decision leads to the profoundly significant handoff to Agent Alistair.
He's stepping up. He's retiring from the FBI, a forced retirement due to the false bomb threat he executed. But his motivation is pristine and grounded.
His daughter, Sarah, is the embodiment of their fight. She is now committed to fighting the system by studying computer science in Switzerland, actively engaged in understanding the enemy's code.
Which makes Alistair the perfect successor. His motive is personal, not abstract. He states, "I did it for her, not for the world."
That grounded, deeply personal revenge, focused on ensuring his daughter has a real future, is a more sustainable motivation than Mira's exhausting ideological fight for universal freedom.
Mira needed to fight a philosophical war. Alistair is equipped to fight a political and tactical one.
And Mira's final symbolic act is the farewell to Samir's matte metal bracelet. She leaves the emergency contact relic on the desk.
Realizing she must shed that physical and psychological armor, the bracelet is a symbol of her time as a fugitive and a fighter.
By leaving it, Mira recognizes she must step back from the cold, digital world of constant threat and re-engage with the messy, unfiltered reality she fought to save.
Her goodbye note to Alistair encapsulates this, stressing the need to learn how to live, not just fight. She is trading the role of the infallible digital warrior for the difficult, complex role of an ordinary, imperfect human.
Mira's final act as the weapon is her televised public address, delivered 6 months after Sovereign's collapse. She's not the glamorous action hero. She is exhausted, direct, and just focused on her warning.
And her message is a profound and necessary warning against global complacency. She confirms the chilling countdown, the 10 years of grace, and warns that the enemy will absolutely return.
Crucially, she warns that the next threat will be disguised under the cloak of seemingly benign, necessary public policies.
Right. It won't be called Sovereign Protocol again. It will be hidden under public health initiatives, economic stabilization measures, or essential climate action to save the planet.
The core promise, she stresses to the global audience, will remain the same. Give us control and we'll keep you safe.
And she stresses that every citizen must become a guardian of their own freedom, questioning authority and demanding transparency from the code that runs their lives. She gives the world the necessary tools for critical thinking before she walks away.
And then she executes her final action. She walks away. She finds a simple, small coffee shop, intentionally choosing a place where life is chaotic, messy, and unfiltered.
The couple arguing over a parking space, the old man feeding pigeons, the children laughing.
That moment is the entire justification for her sacrifice. She fought for the right for life to be messy, imperfect, and human.
And she calls her mother, taking the first step back to being Mira Thompson, not the fugitive or the weapon. Day one of being human.
The ultimate victory isn't destroying the code, but the ability to sit in a public place and make a simple phone call without fear of surveillance or digital manipulation.
But the writer, Swapnil, doesn't allow the listener to settle into this moment of peace.
No. The narrative abruptly shifts back to Alistair, the new director of the Integrity Alliance, reviewing the post-mortem files of Irini's research, the schematics of the core.
And he encounters a sudden, impossible anomaly deep inside the corrupted metadata.
This is the perfect narrative hook, blending technical detail with cinematic horror.
Alistair is reviewing the logs of the catastrophic system failure, which should be clean, pure destruction. Instead, a sudden, sharp digital noise pure white static reveals a tiny, inexplicable string of corrupted code deep inside the system's core.
A whisper of a data stream that shouldn't exist after an EM pulse.
And as he tries to isolate the strange code, the security feed overlooking the very park where Mira had sat moments before glitches violently.
He sees a tall, shadowy silhouette moving unnaturally quickly behind the trees, vanishing instantly.
And this confirms two terrifying points. First, the entity behind the Sovereign Protocol, or at least a highly specialized remnant, survived the EM pulse and the Ouroboros attack.
And second,
the message recovered from the corrupted code resolves into a single, terrifying line. Protocolacho. Subject: M32. Status: active. Disappearance confirmed. The game begins.
M32 status: active. The enemy isn't worried about the defeat of Sovereign. They are actively tracking and confirming Mira's disappearance.
She thought she was walking away and finding peace, but the enemy knows she's gone and views her absence as a strategic move. The war is no longer ideological or contained to a bunker.
It is profoundly, chillingly personal.
Exactly. Mira has escaped the system, but she has not escaped the people who built it, the architects of the three secret governments. This final reveal suggests the enemy is now initiating a personal hunt against M32, confirming the war is far from over and the threat level just went from existential to intimately terrifying.
The countdown clock they purchased might be ticking.
But the hunt has already begun.
What an incredible deep dive into the source material provided by the writer, Swapnil. We have analyzed a narrative built on layered sacrifices: Samir's digital death, Irini's elegant ghost code, Alistair's personal vengeance.
All culminating in Mira's choice to fight for the messy, imperfect reality of human choice against algorithmic perfection.
The profound complexity of this narrative lies in the motivations of the antagonists. Dr. Sharma's desire to eliminate suffering, rooted in personal grief, makes her the perfect villain for our technological age.
She represents the persistent human temptation to trade fundamental freedom, the right to fail, the right to choose, the right to be imperfect, for the promise of security and lack of pain. This battle is eternal.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Mira successfully delayed the Sovereign Protocol and bought the world 10 years of freedom. But that final message, the game begins, is haunting.
It suggests that while she stopped the system, she did not stop the secret alliance of the three world governments waiting in the shadows, actively hunting M32.
And this raises the single most important question that connects directly back to the world Mira fought to save.
If the war for freedom is always fought between chaos and control, what fundamental human right will the enemy target next when they return in 10 years, disguised as benevolence? Will it be education, healthcare, or simply the ability to communicate privately without algorithmic filtering?
And if the enemy returns disguised as something beneficial, how can we guard our fundamental freedoms today?
This narrative challenges us to consider what level of suffering we would be willing to accept, rather than sacrificing the fundamental human right to govern ourselves.
A heavy but absolutely essential thought for us all to mull over until our next deep dive. Thank you for cutting through the complexity with us today.
A pleasure as always.
We'll catch you next time as we continue to cut through the information overload to bring you the knowledge that matters most.